Hi, ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, May 8th. Kind of a quiet morning here in the Mid-Atlantic region. It'll actually become quite warm later today. Places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, probably high temperatures in the 75 to 80 degree range. Then low pressure will move along a frontal boundary zone late tonight and on Tuesday, bring cooler conditions to the Mid-Atlantic region, maybe some shower activity as well. Then the second half of the work week looks pretty dry and warm throughout much of the eastern part of the nation. The highlights in the weather department over the next week to 10 days or so, a couple features I want to kind of emphasize here. First of all, some heavy rains are likely in Texas, over the state of Texas later on this week. And then in about 7 or 10 days or so, it looks like at least the GFS is hinting on another cold air outbreak that looks quite impressive from this vantage point as it potentially pushes into the middle part of the nation. Again, that's about a week to 10 days away. Let's start off by looking at the total accumulated liquid equivalent precipitation for the next 10 days. We're using the 0Z run, the operational version of the GFS from last night. Again, this is the total precipitation for the next 10 days. First of all, virtually no part of the nation is completely dry over the next 10 days or so. That's kind of interesting for this time of the year. Maybe a little bit here, southwestern part of Arizona, a place like Yuma, Arizona may not get any rain at all, but for the most part, the entire country gets at least a little bit of precipitation over the next 10 days or so, including California, by the way. You can see some higher elevation precipitation. Some of this will be in the form of snow over the Sierra Nevada and Northern California, certainly getting in on some rain action over the next 10 days. But look at Texas right here. And again, we'll talk a little bit about this. Some heavy rains possible in Texas later on this week. There's a system or two that will slide from the Pacific Ocean right into the south central states, contributing to heavy rainfall down across not only Texas, but Oklahoma and Arkansas as well, and some decent precipitation up across the central and northern plains, the Midwest, and even into parts of the Mid-Atlantic region over the next several days. Well, let's start off by looking at the temperature anomalies at the 850 millibar level, again using the operational run of the GFS from last night. Still some colder than normal conditions across California. That has been the case for much of the last few months or so, but a lot of warm conditions now across the middle part of the nation, spilling over in the Mid-Atlantic region and all the way up into Canada. Now, let's move forward here. There'll be a little bit of a low pressure area dropping south and east, kind of like a clipper system from the wintertime, where it drops from Canada across the Great Lakes into the Mid-Atlantic region. That will bring some cooler conditions right here for the day on Tuesday, and the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S. I mentioned earlier, high temperatures this afternoon could reach 75 to 80 degrees, D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, more likely in the 60s on Tuesday before another rebound for the second half of the work week. Another day of below normal temperatures across California on Tuesday. Then let's move into the middle part of the week, and here we have, again, kind of that typical situation we've experienced a lot over the past several weeks. Colder air moving in from the west, clashing with some warm and humid air, and this will help to set up a clash zone here by midweek over Texas. Not only some heavy rainfall, could be some strong to severe thunderstorm activity as well. Up across Canada, a lot of warmer than normal conditions. Now let's push ahead here, and we'll go into the end of the week. This is Friday. Much of the nation with warmer than normal conditions. The exception being probably the Rocky Mountain states, Canada, above normal as well by the time we get to the upcoming weekend. Then we'll push into the early part of next week in very warm conditions, setting up, at least for a temporary basis here, up across the Pacific Northwest. This may be the first real hot type weather. The spring season, place like Seattle, maybe Vancouver, and up across the western part of Oregon. Again, we're talking about a week away from right now, next Monday, the middle part of May. Very warm across southwestern Canada as well. But notice here, still some colder than normal conditions in this particular case a week from now in the middle part of the nation. And we'll push farther ahead. Look at this potential outbreak. The GFS is really jumping on another shot of colder than normal conditions by the middle part of next week, diving into the middle of the nation all the way into next Thursday. This is now about a week and a half away, a widespread colder than normal air mass on the maps here from the zero-Z run of the GFS. Very interesting possible scenario that we'll track closely over the next several days, because you get a cold air outbreak like this time of the year, it certainly can lead to some significant rainfall, maybe some severe weather as well. But this is about a week and a half away, something we'll monitor closely over the next several days. Well, let's now take a look at the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast map. Some ridging here across the Great Lakes region, the Tennessee Valley here as we begin the new work week. Look at the storm system off of the northern California coastline here. Now, let's move forward here. We talked about heavy rain potential for Texas, and here comes one of the culprits. A deep upper level low slides across Southern California through the southwestern states. By the time we get to the midweek, we have a clash zone setting up right here. We have some colder than normal conditions moving from west to east across the southwestern states. Some warm and humid entrenched air up across the Gulf region. Again, this is the area where there could be some significant rainfall by the middle part of the week, maybe some strong to severe thunderstorm activity. And then once this has an impact on Texas, Oklahoma, that particular system weakens and slides up to the north and east, and ridging takes over for much of the nation. This is now by the end of the week into the upcoming weekend. We're looking at 80-degree highs by Friday in places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, and much of the nation. Remember, we talked about that potential hot weather setting up finally up across the Pacific Northwest. And look at this upper level ridging way above normal heights here by the upcoming weekend. And that, again, will lead to some hot weather over the southwestern part of Canada, the northwestern part of the U.S., later this weekend, going into the early part of next week. And then we'll go farther out in time. We'll see this big upper level low. Again, a lot of colder than normal air will be associated with this. Of course, this is 7 to 10 days away, so we'll continue to monitor it, but this would be the middle of next week. Quite a change for the northern plains if this comes to fruition after several days of warmer than normal conditions, back to a colder than normal pattern. By the way, the Pacific Northwest looks like it'll stay warmer than normal, higher heights than normal. Even if this cold air outbreak does make it into the U.S., it looks like it'll make it into the central part of the nation. Well, let's wrap up by looking at the surface forecast maps from the zero-Z run of the GFS. A nice day across the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S., high pressure in control across south central Canada, and that again is controlling the weather throughout the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S. And we have kind of a clipper-like of system here, dropping from from northwest to southeast across kind of a weak stalled out frontal boundary zone. By tomorrow morning right here, there'll be a stalled out frontal boundary zone across Virginia, and this low pressure area brings in cooler conditions to the mid-Atlantic region, and certainly the chance of showers, maybe even a thunderstorm, especially south of the Mason-Dixon line. It passes through here by tomorrow night into Wednesday morning. This high pressure system takes over. We're really setting up for a nice weather pattern, a warm, dry weather pattern for the mid-Atlantic, northeast U.S., probably Wednesday, Thursday, and probably Friday as well, with this high pressure in control. But the middle of the nation, some rainfall, some decent rainfall here is it's starting to show up Wednesday, with the potential for some heavy rain over the state of Texas. And again, watch out for the possibility of some strong to severe thunderstorm activity. There'll be warm and humid air entrenched across the northern Gulf states by midweek, and colder than normal air sliding from west to east across the southwestern states. Will go out a little bit farther in time. This system ultimately moves up and weakens as it moves up to the north and east. Nice weather continues at the end of the work week here, Thursday night into the day on Friday. Again, very nice, probably back to 80 degrees for highs on Friday in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City. Most of the rain confined to the middle part of the nation. Will go out a little bit farther in time. And here we have another system that could cause some heavy rainfall over the state of Texas, maybe Oklahoma as well. So really two shots of significant rain over the south central states, a special focus, specifically focused on Texas. One at the middle of the week, Wednesday night time frame, and one early part of the weekend, let's say Friday night into Saturday. Right here, we'll go out a little bit farther in time, and some more rainfall possible over the weekend in the Mid-Atlantic region. Here we go all the way out to Sunday. Still seeing some significant rainfall over Texas. So that is an area of concern over the next several days or so. Some heavy rainfall potentially coming to Texas, maybe even to Oklahoma as well. A couple different systems too. It's not just one system, one midweek and one over the early part, maybe the middle part of the upcoming weekend. Watch out for some hot weather developing over the Pacific Northwest by the weekend into the early part of next week. And then looking farther ahead, we'll keep monitoring the possibility of another cold air outbreak working its way from Canada into the central part of the nation in about 8, 9, 10 days or so. That's it for now. For ArcfieldWeather.com, this has been meteorologist Paul Dorian.